Hey everyone, it is the Honey Badger here, and joining me today for this monumental patch occasion is no one. It's just me today. This does happen occasionally. Kyle says he is busy. That's another reason why I'm doing it earlier. I usually would have to wait for him to do the patch, but if he can't join me, then I can do the patch early, which is fine. That means people can get to see it sooner, and it makes it more relevant. Although it's always relevant because I always get it out before the patch always happens. Because as we know, the patch always comes out the next day. When they give us the notes, then it comes out the next day. They shut the servers off at night and they patch. And that is what is happening. So this is patch 6.9. This is the mid-season Mage update. It's a rather lengthy patch too. So actually probably having me solo it might actually save us a lot of time. There will be less discussion obviously because I can't bounce ideas off of someone, and I will probably get tired at some point because I'm going to be talking for at least the next hour is my guess. But we're going to be doing the patch. Yes, rip Kyle indeed. And if you could leave a like on this, that'd be great. Much appreciated. I'm not going to really talk about the new champion. I don't even know how you say her name. Is it Taya? I actually, how do you know how it's spelled, honestly? I briefly saw it, but I'm probably going to jump onto the PvE myself and do an ability overview. So look for that probably tomorrow, most likely. So if you want to know more about her, just look for a video tomorrow, most likely. But yeah, other than that, we should jump into the patch, because there's a lot to talk about. So first things first, the major mage updates. So there's 6 main mages that are getting a big update. Those include Vladimir, Malzahar, Cassiopeia, Zyra, Brand, and Vel'Koz. So the first one is Vlad. And so I mean, I don't know how much you want me to talk about all these things. We'll go over it, though. So, base health is being increased, growth stat being decreased by 1, base attack damage up by 4. Vladimir has all new ability icons, which is kind of fun. His passive, which is Crimson Pact, he gains 1 ability power per, instead of 40 bonus health, it's going to be 25 bonus health. And then his ability power bonus per health, instead of it being 1.4 bonus health, it's now going to be 1 bonus health per 1 ability power. So he will scale a lot better with his passive. At least his scaling on his passive is a lot better. On his Q, which is his transfusion, the cooldown on that is being decreased early, but it's a little bit longer late. Instead of 4, it's 5. The damage on it is being decreased all around, but don't think of these as nerfs because his passive has been buffed massively, is the big part. So just take that into account, like, with these numbers being decreased in some ways, he's getting huge buffs with how much he's gaining for his bonus health and his bonus ability power. So that's changing a little bit. The healing remains unchanged. The damage ratio is a little bit lower, but once again, that's not a big issue. Crimson Rush, after casting Transfusion twice, Vladimir gains Crimson Rush once Transfusion comes off cooldown. While under the effect of Crimson Rush, Vladimir gains a short burst of speed, and his next Transfusion within a short period of time deals double damage and heals for a portion of his missing health. Crimson Rush duration is 2.5 seconds, and the Rush healing bonus, there it is, it scales from 40 to 240, plus 1% of your missing health per 40 ability power. His pool, the ratio on it is a little bit less off of the bonus health, but he has better scaling bonus health from his passive, but that remains pretty much the same. Tides of Blood cost, this is based on charge duration, so 2.5 to 10% of your maximum health. The cooldown's 9 down to 5, 600 range. The damage is from 30 to 60, and then 70 to 140 based on that charge again, because you now charge it. Ratio, complicated numbers. I honestly probably don't need to read every single number, so that's not going to happen for that, so I'm not going to read all that. You can look at that right now while we're talking about it. You should be looking at these while I talk. It's a little bit of both, a little bit of both, a little bit of both. After charge, Vladimir is slowed while holding Tides of Blood. Fully charged Tides of Blood slows enemies hit by 40% for half a second. And then on Hemoplague, duration's down 1 second. It's only 4 now. The damage amplification is going to be 10%, increased damage from all sources instead of 12. But once again, these decreased numbers, it's not a big deal because he's getting a huge buff on his passive. And then upon detonation, it will heal Vladimir for each enemy hit. Base heal is there. And heal ratio. Sneeze ratio, more like it, right? Oh. Allergies, yo. So he's got a base heal and a heal ratio on it, which is kind of nice. I do like that change. I think that will make him pretty good. So that is the first one. Should we keep going through all of them? Let me know. I'm talking to you guys right now. So Malzahar is the next one. A champion who's honestly needed some changes of any kind. He's just been really stagnantly boring for a while. Not that he's been bad by any means. He's been pretty okay. Really good in being dominant in his lane. Not the best in team fights. But yeah, it needed some changes. New splash arts, new textures, new ability icons, passive void shift damage reduction 90%. And the void shift cooldown 23 to 6 after taking direct damage. Malzahar skirts the line between dimensions, activating Void Shift after avoiding direct damage for a period of time. During Void Shift, Malzahar takes heavily reduced damage and is immune to crowd control. Malzahar loses Void Shift 1 second after taking damage from a non-minion source or blocking a crowd control effect, which is kind of neat. So he could be quite strong because of that. Call of the Void, 60 mana at all ranks, doesn't go up to 100 anymore and didn't start at 80. Cooldown's only 6 seconds. The damage is being reduced. It doesn't do 300 anymore, it only do 230. The ratio is down 0.1. The cast time is a little bit more delayed with 0.5, but you can cast this far more often. And then the delay after cast has been removed, so it kind of makes up for it. So you'll just have the initial delay, and then it'll go off. That is your Call of the Void. I assume it still silences. Anyways, Void Swarm summons a Voidling the first time a Voidling attacks a champion, large minion, or epic monster, or assists in killing a unit. Malzahar spawns a new Voidling with the same remaining duration. When 3 or more Voidlings are active, they gain 50% attack speed. So you can be doing quite a lot of Voidling stuff. 60 mana is the cost. Cooldown 20 to 16. The range is 450. The Voidling duration is 12 seconds, or how long they should last. Voidling damage on hit 10 to 30. Voidling damage ratio, there it's listed out from 0.3 all the way to 0.4, and then plus 0.1 ability power ratio on it. Voidlings deal triple damage to lane minions below 25 health, so you can clear them faster. Voidlings deal 70% damage to monsters. Additional Voidlings won't spawn if current Voidlings have less than 4 seconds left on duration. Voidlings prefer to attack targets afflicted by malefic visions. Ooh, that's good. That means they'll prioritize whoever you're trying to kill or whatever you're trying to kill. And when it's on malefic visions, then that means your visions will jump easier too, as long as they didn't change that. Voidlings no longer prefer to attack champions that Malzahar has basic attack. Yeah, it's going to prefer whoever you've malefic visioned. So yeah, prepare for some weird AD Malzahars again. We'll see how that works. Maybe we'll see him in the jungle too a little bit, but could be interesting. Visions, the mana is actually not going to be quite as expensive, but starts out the same. The damage is definitely reduced. The ratio is reduced. Mana refund is 2% of maximum mana instead of just an amount on an afflicted kill. So if you do have a big mana pool, you will get more back. If the afflicted enemy is hit by Call of the Void or Nether Grasp, Malefic Vision's duration is refreshed. And then Nether Grasp, which is his ultimate. Malzahar suppresses a target for 2.5 seconds and creates a zone of negative energy around them that deals damage to all enemies inside the duration. Holy cow. So he does definitely more damage because of this now. Null zone duration is 5 seconds. The damage, instead of it being flat amounts, it's 6, 8, and 10% of maximum health per second to all targets in the null zone. And then the ratio is, instead of 1.3 ability power ratio, it's 1.5% of the target's maximum health per 100 ability power per second. And the cast time has been removed, so there's no slight hesitation like when he goes to cast. So you're going to have that, which is kind of, I mean, that makes it better. It means it can just happen right away, which is good. All right. Back up to the top. Cassiopeia. I'm just to put it out there because people are going to be saying this, and I'm seeing it a little bit right now. All these champions are going to be super broken. Well, yeah, they're supposed to be stronger because they've been kind of in a mediocre spot for the first half of the season. There's a reason why they're updating. Also, I think magic resist kind of gets nerfed this patch, so just in general, mages could be annoying. And we've seen other changes to magic resist lately too, so we'll see how that goes in the future. Cassiopeia is next, though. We got to keep moving because this is going to take some time. But it's going to be good. Calm down. Base movement speed is down. Several Cassiopeia's other base stats have been slightly adjusted. Cassiopeia has all new ability icons. Cassiopeia gains 4 movement speed per level and cannot purchase boots. So get rid of boots. You don't need them on snakes because it makes no sense anyways. Noxus Blast, the mana costs are a little bit higher early. These go up to the same cooldowns, 3.5 seconds instead of 4. The damage is being increased at later ranks. The ratio is also being increased, and the cast range is being decreased. Bonus movement speed is going to be a lot more. Instead of 20%, it's 30 to 50, but it decays over the duration. Miasma, Cassiopeia spews venom in an arc in front of her, leaving toxic clouds for a few seconds. Enemies in the cloud are continuously poisoned, slowing and grounding them, prohibiting the use of movement abilities. Cost is 70 mana. The cooldown is 22 to 14. Duration is 5 seconds. Damage is 20 to 80, depending on how many points you have in it. Ability power ratio is low at 1.5. Slow percentage is 40 up to 80%, but it decays. And the range on it will increase as you rank it up, or as it increases. And the cloud radius is 160. Which is dandy. I'm not texting at the same time, I promise. Twin Fang, 60 to 80 mana instead of 50 to 90. Cooldown, 0.9 seconds instead of 5. I like that. Damage, slightly less. Ratio, slightly lot less. But you can spam this constantly. Constantly. No longer reduces the cooldown by 0.5 seconds upon hitting a poison target. And that's why they're going to just move it down to 0.9 from 5. Because if it was a poison target, it just reduce it. And that's not blah, 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 blah. No longer refunds any additional an additional 1.5% of Cassiopeia's maximum mana on kill. If the target is poisoned, Twin Fang deals an additional damage amount plus a higher ability power ratio. And then if the target is poisoned, Twin Fang also heals for a flat amount, and the heal ratio is 0.1. So what they've done to fix Twin Fang is you can cast it all the time regardless because it's on a shorter cooldown. It will do way more damage and heal Cassiopeia if it's a poison target instead of them getting the refresh for it being a poison target is essentially the changes that they've made. So I like that change. It should be good. Petrifying Gaze. Cooldown is being reduced, and the slow amount is going to be 40% on targets facing away instead of 60%. So less of a slow on the facing away targets. She's actually the next champion I'm on for jungle, I believe, in A to Z. I wonder how these will affect me. But I actually do like that this is on a shorter cool... Oh, no, but the mana costs are... I'm just going to eat through it way too fast. That's not going to be good. That's going to be tough early. Okay. I'll deal with that as I have to. Some of these major updates don't actually feel that major, so some of the minor ones coming up I might skip because these seem like they're changes but not like major. Zyra's base health is being increased by 20 because she has almost none and she's super squishy. Base movement speed is up quite a bit, which is good. Zyra's base textures have been updated and new ability icons. Her passive, Garden of Thorns. Seeds spawn around Zyra periodically, becoming faster with level. If an enemy champion stepped on a seed, it dies. If Zyra is hiding in a bush, seeds will not spawn until she reveals herself. Casting deadly spines or grasping roots near seeds causes them to grow into plants. Plants of the same type deal 50% less damage against the same target. Seed lifetime is 30 seconds. Plant health is 4 instead of 6. Plant damage is that. Ratios lower. Unlike seeds spawned by rampant growth, seeds spawned by Game of Thorns grant no vision passively or when stepped on. Okay, or when stepped on. That's how that works. I do love Zyra, if you guys didn't know. I love me some Zyra stuff. It's all about that booty. Zyra, the Deadly Spines. On her Q, Deadly Spine, not Deadly Bloom anymore. It is going to cost less mana. It is going to do less damage, but the ratio is also less. I don't know, whatever. We'll see how that works. Size increase now grows in a rectangle instead of a circle. So it's like this instead of this. Grows plants slightly outside of the damage area, like grasping roots. So, things to look forward to. W, rampant growth. Seed lifetime. So 30 seconds, it's 60 seconds. No longer grants cooldown reduction. Maximum plant health, 10 to 50%. Okay. Stranglethorns no longer grants 50% attack speed to plants. Plants Enraged by Stranglethorns deals 50% bonus damage. Effectively, the same damn thing. They just don't attack as much. They just do more damage, which is nice. So we'll see how that changes. Like I said, these big changes, they are definitely changes, but not as enormous as you might think. Brand is next. He got himself a brand new kit. Had to do it. It's too easy. New ability icons. Passive is Blaze. Blaze stacks up to 3 times. Upon reaching maximum stacks, Blaze detonates in a large area around the target. Blaze damage, instead of at 8% of the target's maximum health over 4 seconds, is 2% of the target's maximum health over 4 seconds per stack. So that can obviously go higher. Detonation damage is 12 to 16% of the target's maximum health. It scales all the way up to rank 9. Detonation ratio, 1.5% of the target's maximum health per 100 ability power. And then Brand can stack Blaze on targets who have exploded in the past. Can't stack on targets in the last 4 seconds who have detonated. So you can't, like, ridiculously, like, do it over and over and over and over and over, because that would just be way too much. But 4 seconds is how long it takes, and then you can start to do that again to get that detonation damage and bonus. His Q, which is Seer, damage being reduced at later ranks. The ratio is down. Stun duration is also decreased to 1.5 instead of 2. Pillar of Flame cooldown actually now exists on it. It'll scale down to 8 seconds instead of it being a flat 10. And the mana costs are decreased by 10 across the board. Conflagration damage is being decreased, still the same early, but decreased to 150 instead of 210. And then the ratio is also being decreased, but it has better cooldown, so you can cast more often. Instead of it being from 12 seconds to 8, it's now 10 seconds to 6. So you can cast that more often, which is good. And then Pyroclasm, the damage on it is being decreased on its base damage. The ratio on it is being decreased on it as well, but it now prioritizes detonating Blaze on champions. This means that Pyroclasm now prioritizes champions by default and prefers targets with 2, 1, or 0 stacks rather than 3 in an attempt to trigger a detonation. Briefly slows enemies as well now for a percentage. So, whatever briefly means, what's briefly? Is that like 0.1 second? Is that half a second? That's not a good number, right? But thanks for briefly. So now your Pyroclasm actually slows people, which will make it harder for them to get away from Pyroclasm as it's bouncing off of them. So that's kind of good. So if you are a brand player, yes, some of your damage is down. But once again, items and damage and things happening to numbers, we got changes to items and lots of Mage item fixes too coming up. So they don't have to always give them all that. And I think Magic Resist, once again, has been nerfed. But just in general, it looks like for at least a general population of mages right now, there are shorter cooldowns for most of your abilities. Your mana costs are being reduced a little bit. Obviously, to sort some of that out, we have to bring some of those damage numbers down a little bit and those ratios. But we're getting some unique utility now on the on like some of your other abilities, such as it now being able to slow on Pyroclasm, which is cool. And finally, Vel'Koz for the last of the major updates. Vel'Koz, organic deconstruction damage being decreased at later ranks effectively, but now additionally scales with a 0.4 ability power ratio. Plasma Fission refunds 50% of the mana cost for each unit killed by it, up to 150% max. And then Void Rift, first hit is now a lower ability power ratio. Second hit is also at a lower ratio, but once again, that's not a big deal. Tectonic Disruption, also a lower ability power ratio by 0.2. Lifeform Disintegration Ray. Deconstructed champions become researched for the next 7 seconds. Refreshed by basic attacks and abilities. Lifeform Disintegration Ray deals true damage to research targets instead of magic damage. So now you get the official, now you get officially more true damage instead of just magic damage. What has been removed though is StackBot no longer applies stacks of it. The damage is being increased, the ratio is being increased, and the cooldown is being decreased. So those are your changes, and that would be Vel'Koz. Now, I'm just going to briefly talk about the minor Mage updates, because we got the major ones out of the way, which is good. We got the major ones out of the way. Now, the minor Mage updates are coming to Anivia, Annie, Fiddlesticks, Kennen, Swain, Syndra, Vhagar, Victor, Xerath, and Ziggs. They're getting what they're calling minor updates, whatever the hell that means. So, like for Anivia, attack, missile speed, up 100, whatever. Flash Frost, just some damage changes, ratio changes, stun duration increasing now, slow duration increasing as well with Glacial Storm. Frostbite, missile speed increased, range decreased by 50, but it overall is about the same. It's a 30 buff actually because it's based off of the edge of the hitbox. And then Glacial Storm, cast range increased, radius decreased, slow amount increased as it's ranked up. No longer slows attack speed, now expands to a radius of 400 over 3 seconds. It just doesn't start off as a massive field. It grows to that massive field. At a maximum size, its damage, chill duration, and slow are all increased by 50%. So she has to at least do it and commit to it for 3 seconds to get to that full size. Then it's even better than it used to be. She just can't initially put it down for a second to get that giant area. So it gives people a better time to react to get out of the area and not get caught in it. So these are what they're calling minor changes. And I agree they are minor changes. There's nothing, like, it's still the same kit. There's no amazingly huge differences. Glacial Storm obviously is the biggest one here. So these are quick to touch on. Annie's next. Pyromania stacks are now displayed like Jin's bullets underneath her health bar. Incinerate is actually got more range now. Molten Shield's duration is halved. Its damage on being attacked is increased. The ratio is increased. No longer gives armor and magic resist, but it now gives damage reduction for that short duration, and it does not speed Tibbers up anymore. Now, Tibbers, oh my god, that's a lot. Summoning Tibbers now, the damage is decreased a bit. The ratio is decreased. The aura damage is decreased. The aura ratio is decreased. Attack damage from Tibbers is decreased. Tibbers' attack ratio, though, now scales with ability power, and attack range has been slightly increased by 25. Tibbers' AI has been improved, which is good. Annie can command Tibbers to follow her by selecting herself as Tibbers' target. Oh, so follow me. That's neat. While out of combat for at least 5 seconds, Tibbers gains movement speed when moving toward Annie and regenerates 6% of his maximum health every second. Tibbers enrages on summoners, ignoring unit collision and gaining bonus movement speed and 100% bonus movement speed, decaying over 3 seconds. Oh, attack speed. 275 attack speed, sorry. And then movement speed. Using Pyromania on an enemy champion also causes Tibbers to enrage. So Tibbers is angry now. So he has less damage when he spawns, but like now he's going to run at people, ignoring unit collisions and going to go like that. At least that's my guess. If Annie dies while Tibbers is summoned, Tibbers instantly regenerates 50% of his missing health, enrages, and targets Annie's killer. If Annie's killer is too far away, Tibbers will focus the lowest health champion instead. So when Annie dies, if Tibbers still alive, Tibbers will get super angry, get his money back, and he will hate everyone, basically. So that's what's up. He's angry. Which he should be. He's on fire and he's a bear. Fiddlesticks. Passive Dread. Fiddlesticks gains Dread after not moving for 1.5 seconds. Immobilizing crowd control resets this timer. If Fiddlesticks has Dread, moving causes him to gain bonus movement speed. Duration, 1.5 seconds. Movement speed, percentages, there you go. Based off of the levels, there you go. Q. Terrify. Range, decreased by 50. Drain. The cooldown, decreased. Cooldown now begins at the end of Drain's channel instead of while doing it. So it's about the same, roughly. Dark Wind, number of bounces is up to 7 from 5. Now prioritizes drained targets. Crow Storm will cast at maximum range if cast out of range. Now uses the On My Way ping when he casts his ultimate, which is really nice. It lets your team know that I'm ulting. I'm not just standing still in a bush. So that's good. Good changes to Fiddle. Cannon's next. Icons are updated. Mark of the Storm. Mark duration, 6 seconds instead of 6.5, or 6.25, sorry, and a quarter. First stun duration is 1.25, that's unchanged. The reduced effect window is 6 seconds after last stun instead of 7. And additional stuns, 0.5 instead of 0.6, which is another thing. Thundering Shuriken, the cost of energy is decreased. Electrical Surge, the cost of energy is down, but the range is also down by 500. Slicing Maelstrom, Slicing Maelstrom no longer limited to striking the same target 3 times per cast, but only the first 3 strikes on a target will apply the Mark of the Storm. The damage is 80, 140, 210 with a 0.4 ability power ratio per bolt, which is unchanged. The damage fall off is 25% per bolt. 50% is the minimum damage. The duration is 3 seconds at all ranks instead of it scaling up to 5. The tick rate is 0.5 seconds, up from 0.25. Max damage per target is higher with a better ratio, though. So it's actually more. Each tick now strikes each target in the area, including minions and monsters. So, some positive changes for Ken for the most part, which is good. Swain Train. Pain Train, Swain Train. Basic attack missile speed increased by 300. Okay, Classic Northern Front and Bilge Roger Swain have received new mana regen particles on his passive. Flat mana regen on kill is increased. Oh, good for Swain. Swain's needed some help for a while now. He's kind of been crap. Not like super crap, just like not good enough to consider playing. Anyways, Decrepify. Cooldown, now 10 to... Oh, wait, what's it do? Swain orders... Now, here's the question, because this word, depending on where you live, is said quite different, because it could be Beat Rice, Beatrice, or Beatrice. Anyways, depending on where you live, you say that in many different ways. I'm going to go with the town in the state of Nebraska and call it Beatrice because that makes it ridiculous. Flies towards the center of the target area for a short duration while deploy Beatrice will target the closest enemy, dealing damage per second and slowing it. Switches targets if the current target leaves or is killed. Cooldown 14 to 10. Cost 60 to 80. Range 700. Radius of it 350. Duration 4 seconds. Slow scales up to 40% from 20%. The damage per second is 20 to 85 per second. Ratio, ability power 0.3, and deals 100% bonus damage to minions, which is good. Which is real good. Never move. Costs 80 to 120. Now it's just 80 to 100. They've kind of been slowly moving out of the trend of having any mana-based ability cost more than 100 mana, unless it's casted in on his, his Void, Rift, Walk, whatever. But yeah, they don't need things costing much more than 100. It's just annoying. Torment. Is going to do less damage, but has a better ability power ratio. Damage amplification is 20% of Swain's damage at all ranks. So this no longer scales up from 8%. So now 1 point in that is going to make it way more impactful early. If Swain afflicts someone with Torment, Decrepify will prioritize this target. So, Ravenous Flock. Cooldown is 10 seconds, up from 8. The mana cost is 25, like it is, but plus 5 additional mana per second at all ranks instead of 5, 6, 7. Healing against minions only 15% now instead of 25. Maximum number of ravens is 5 instead of 3, which is more, and more is good. Agreed. Lesser ravens can't attack the same target for 1 second. Okay, good enough. That is the Swain Train. Syndra's next. I don't even want to go over these. I'm so tired of Mage changes already. I mean, they're good to know, but these aren't that different. They're just different, but they're not that different. But we should know them. I know, I'm sorry. We'll go over it. All right, Dark Sphere deals 15% extra damage to each champion. Instead, spheres last an additional 2 seconds. Force of Will's bonus. Oh, sorry, that was the Dark Sphere bonus. Force of Will's slow duration increased 2 seconds. Now it will be Force of Will now grabs up to 2 additional spheres within a 400 range at the primary target, increasing the size of the slow damage zone and reactivation. Dark Sphere's ratio is being increased. Force of Will now displays a maximum throw radius while bending units to your will. And Scatter the Weak cooldown is decreased at earlier ranks and scales to the same. See, those aren't that many. That's not that big of a change. Vigar, however you gar it. He's changing. Strike an enemy champion with an ability grants Vigar stacks of Phenomenal Evil. Phenomenal Evil gives Vigar 1 ability power per stack. Baleful Strike grants a stack as well on a kill. Grants 2 for large minions and large monsters. No longer grants ability power on champion takedowns. Cost is being decreased at earlier rank. Actually, all across the board. So it's cheaper to use Baleful Strike, which is his Q. Badger, can we have a curse server link? Why, yes, you can. You may. Admin panel. Copied. Pasted. Don't forget to join my curse server. I do giveaways in there, and we hang out, and there's lots of chats and stuff, and you know when I'm streaming. It's fun! Anyways, back to the matter at hand. Dark matter, that is, at which the matter at hand. Cost is being decreased by 10. Event Horizon, the cost is being decreased by 10 across the board. And then Primordial Blast, the damage is being... well, it's based on the target's missing health now, but it's overall in the same zone of which the same amount of numbers just can be increased because it's based on the target's missing health. And the ratio is same difference. It's also going to have an increasing amount based on the target's missing health. Neat. Fun for him. I don't play that champion. I think he's boring. Victor's next on his Siphon Power. His cooldown is being decreased at earlier ranks. The missile speed... or the missile damage, not speed, sorry. The missile damage is increased. The ratio is increased. The empowered attack damage is decreased. The base shield is 8% of Victor's total mana instead of just flat numbers. And then the shield ratio is a little bit less on the ability power ratio for 0.05 of it coming off. His death ray remains unchanged on its damage. The ratio is being decreased by 0.2. Augmented damage is, instead of at 100% of the death ray's damage, it's just some new numbers, plus a new ability power ratio on the augmented damage. No longer reduces detonation damage by 60% against targets already hit by death ray. Ray plus aftershock damage is going to be slightly less early, but more later with a better ability power ratio. The laser speed is also increased quite a bit, up from 780 to 1050. And the explosion delay is 1 second instead of 0.6. So it's faster traveling out, but it has a slightly longer explosion delay. And his Chaos Storm duration is 1 second shorter. The initial damage is reduced. The ratio is about the same, but it's reduced by 0.05. The tick rate is, instead of it being 0.5 seconds, it's 2 seconds. The storm damage is increased. You're going to basically be getting way more of it back. Instead of it being on the initial damage, it will happen while it's out and actually chaos storming around. The storm ratio is a lot higher as well because that's where the damage is going to be happening instead of it just on the initial burst up front. And the max damage is increased with a higher ability power ratio. So effectively it can do more, but not initially. It'll happen over a period of time, which is good. Which is good. Xerath is next. Width, ooh, by 5, short. Ooh, it's just unwithened by 5 on his Q. Warning indicator now better matches the damage zone. I wanted it to say danger zone. It would make me feel good, but we're not onto a rumble change. That would be the danger zone. Shocking orb. Stun duration is shorter and longer. Based on distance it travels. I do like that change better. This better reflects it because when you land that long one, now you have more time to actually get more out of it, which I do like. I do actually like Xerath. Really good. Oh, yes, I will put a link in the description as well. Right now, look at this. I will put it at the top. I can do these things while I'm doing these things. Join. Although the people watching this after the stream portion, they'll be like, just get back to the damn notes. And then that's what I'm going to tell you, just like join my server quick. And then you're good to go. It's in the description. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right? I am. All right, back to the page. We good. All right, anyways. Rite of the Arcane. Damage decreased at later ranks, but increased actually on the first rank, up by 10. Number of barrages, it now scales. Instead of just having 3, you can have up to 5 now. So that decreased damage, not a problem because you got more of them to shoot, so you'll actually do more damage. Range increased by 10%, which is cool. Impact radius is up 10. Delay between shots is a little bit longer at 0.8 instead of 0.6. And then now zooms out to give Xerath a better view of the battlefield, which is much needed. They needed to do that like Jin's ultimate. He needs to be able to pull out to see everything in that massive radius. A lot better of an idea. Riley Arcane Particles have been updated as well. And finally, Ziggs, another champion I like to play, and I'm really excited to see some changes to him. Passive, Short Fuse. The ratio on it is being increased. Cooldown reduction on ability use is, instead of 4 seconds at all ranks, it's going to go 4, 5, 6, depending on the levels. Satchel Charge can now be used on turrets below 25 to 35% of their maximum health to instantly destroy them. Okay, that's really cool. That's like really cool. Okay, that's like really cool. Mega Inferno Bomb. Cooldown is now decreasing. Instead of it being 120 at all ranks, it now scales down to 90. No longer deals double damage to minions. That's fine. It was a little too strong for that, to be honest, when it came to split pushing sideways. So, no problem, dude. I'm glad I could share it with you. Make sure you guys join that, though, for sure. It's actually really freaking cool, to be completely honest. Anyways, besides that, if you'd like to stream, that'd be great. So that is the Mage changes. I'm glad we got out of those. That's probably some of the bulk of the changes for the patch. Not all the changes, but that's a good bulk of some things. Now, we still got a lot of item changes coming up and just general champion changes. But more importantly, we have many things happening on the Rift, too, that are very important. This is a big patch. Now, so some of you watching it, and you've been watching it the whole time, bless your heart. Continue to watch it. That'd be great, because there's some really important things coming up. Now, you don't even have to watch. If you just want to have this on in the background and listen to it while you're playing a game, that's a great thing to do if you really don't want to read through everything. But there are a million important changes. This mid-season patch, realistically, is almost like a new season. Like, that's how much stuff is in it. So it's important to at least hear this once, whether or not you're watching or reading it along with me. So, like I said, worst case scenario, go play some Hearthstone or go play a game of League or whatever other game you might or might not play, and just listen to this in the background. Worst case scenario. Listen to the smooth sounds of my voice. So, now let's get into the quote-unquote Mage itemization changes. So, Tear of the Goddess, mana regeneration being removed completely. Instead, it now refunds 15% of the mana you spend. So, this is a trend you're going to see on a handful of items. I do kind of like the idea of it, but I do like the way this is kind of a cool thing. So instead of regen per se, you get refunds. It's interesting and different. I want to see how it works out, but that's something cool. So, anyways, if you're having problems with Cam, join the chat room. We can talk about it there. Catalyst of Eons. Now, instead of it being Catalyst of Protector, Aeons? I'm actually not. Well, I'm just dropping the A. No, don't go to the actual page for it. You bother me, you go away. You go away. All right, cool. Its cost is 1,100 instead of 1,200. Unique passive. 15% of damage taken from champions is gained as mana. Spending mana restores 20% of mana spent as health. Up to 15 per cast. Toggle spells heal for up to 15 seconds. I got a hiccup coming. So some cool changes happening to Catalyst, along with the new name. Damage converted into mana. That's kind of nifty. So if somebody's gonna... So this actually is a double-edged sword for enemies. So sometimes you harass and hurt people because they're out of mana. Well, doing that to someone with a Catalyst now is going to give them mana back and could potentially have them now dealing the damage back to you, which is kind of cool. Kind of neat. I like that change, to be completely honest. Catalyst of Harmony has obviously changed its name. Cost 900 gold instead of 1,000. It no longer restores 2% of missing mana every 5 seconds, but it grants 100% base health regen per 5 seconds if your current health percentage is lower than your current mana percentage. Grants 100% base mana regen per 5 seconds if your current mana percentage is lower than your current health percentage. So realistically, what happens is whichever one's lower, you get that one essentially. So, like I said, so if you have more health, you'll get the mana regen. If you have less health than mana, you'll get the health regen. So you get it kind of picks what you really need more of at the time, which is cool because if you're low on health and have plenty of mana, you don't need more mana regen. You just need some health regen. that's kind of a cool change. Spoiler, they buff Kindred. Not true. It's a nerf buff, but it's more of a nerf. Anyways, Lost Chapter. This is a new item. In case you've never heard of it, it's new. Total cost, 900 gold. Amplifying Tome plus Sapphire Crystal and 115 gold. The ability power is 25. The mana is 300. And unique passive restores 20% of your maximum mana over 3 seconds upon leveling up. Finished Codex, 900 gold is its cost. Combined cost is 465, and the ability power is 30 instead of 25, so updates there. Will of the Ancients has been removed. Rod of Ages. Rod of Ages has changed. It is now cheaper. It now builds from a blasting wand and the catalyst, which is what it was. Ability power is down to 60. Mana is down to 300 instead of it being 80 and 400. Mana per stack is only 10 instead of 40. Unique passive, 15% of the damage taken from champions is gained as mana. Spending mana restores 25% of the mana spent as health, up to 25 per cast. Okay, that's so kind of nerfed, less expensive. Ability power and mana reduced, but you do have that unique passive now. Anyways, that's what's up. Morello Namakan is next. It is going to cost 500 more gold, and I'm not going to read its build path because that's boring. Its ability power is up to 100 now. Its mana is 400, and that's new. They removed the mana regeneration. Kills and assists restores 20% of your maximum mana. Can't stack me. 20% cooldown reduction is now unique. Inflicted on enemies below 35% health is when you get Grievous Wound instead of 40%. And the wound duration is 8 seconds instead of 5. Which is cool. Athene's Unholy Grail. Total cost is decreased. Instead of it costing 2,700, it is now 2,250. Chalice and Fittest Codex. Ability power is decreased to 40. Mana regeneration 75 instead of 100%. No longer stores the 20% of your maximum mana on kill or assist. Unique passive, 20% of pre-mitigated damage you deal to champions is gained as blood charges, up to a cap of 100 to 250. Healing or shielding an ally consumes your current blood charges to heal that ally. Grants 100% base health regen per 5 seconds if your current health percentage is lower than your mana, and vice versa. So it has that still going across with it from the Chalice. Tear of the Goddess upgrades. It now refunds 25% of mana spent and no longer grants mana regeneration. The same thing can be said for the Mana Mune, but instead of 25%, it's only 15% refund on mana spent. Abyssal Scepter. It now costs more. Instead of it costing $23.50, it now costs $27.50. The ratio of ability power has been decreased by 10. The magic resist has been increased by 10. Cooldown reduction now lives on it with 10%. The magic resist reduction aura is now 10 to 25. It scales instead of it being a flat 20. The aura no longer applies to minions. Hourglass now costs less gold by 600. It has 30 less ability power. It has 10% cooldown reduction, and its stasis cooldown has been increased by 30 seconds, so it is now on a 2-minute cooldown. Hextech items have been retooled and changed. Spell Vamp has been removed from the game. Now adds bonus damage to basic attacks. So, Hextech Revolver costs less gold by 150, and it no longer grants Spell Vamp, but it's damaging an enemy champion with a basic attack shocks them for 75 to 150 bonus magic damage. It has a 40-second cooldown. It's shared with other Hextech items. The Hextech GLP 800 is a new item. It has a 3,000 gold cost. It has a catalyst and a revolver, 80 ability power, 300 health, 400 mana. It also has the 15% of damage taken from champions is gained as mana. Spending mana restores 25% of mana spent as health, up to 25 per cast. And it has the unique active, which will fire a icy bolt that explode, dealing 100 to 200 magic damage based on level. Enemies hit are slowed by 65%, decaying over half a second. 40-second cooldown for this. It's shared with the Hextech items. And its Frostbolt ratio on ability power is 0.35. Hextech Proto Belt 01 is also a new item. It's got a 2,500 gold cost with a Hextech revolver, a Kindle Gem, and 650 gold, 60 ability power, 300 health, 10% cooldown reduction, unique active, dash forward and unleash a Nova of fire bolts that deal 75 to 150 magic damage based on your level. Enemies hit by multiple fire bolts take 20% damage from additional bolts. It has a 40-second cooldown and a 0.35 ability power ratio on the fire bolt. Hextech Gun Blades is next. It is an unchanged cost. It now has the instantly dealing 250 magic damage to a target champion. It slows them for 40% for 2 seconds, 40-second cooldown, shared with other Hextech items, and the Lightning Bolt has a 0.3 ability power ratio. All right, cool. Now, I'm going to take a breather because, and a drink of tea because, thirsty. How we doing so far? We're doing good? Good. So what's next is jungle bosses. We're out of the mage changes. Jungle bosses are next. So realistically, let's just go over it. It's not that actually crazy. There are new dragons. For the first 35 minutes of the game, one of 4 elemental dragons will spawn every 6 minutes. Only 3 elements will appear per match, though, so not all 4. Only 3. The minimap will indicate the elemental type of dragon that will spawn. Glowing runes inside the dragon pit will also indicate which dragon is spawning next, so you can kind of get a heads up on what's coming. These runes are visible through Fog of War. So, there's 4 of these drakes. You only get 3. So there's the Mountain Drake, which slaying it will permanently grant you true damage to epic monsters and turrets. And this scales. We have Infernal Drake. Slaying this one permanently grants increased attack damage and ability ratio, which also scales. There is the Cloud Drake, which slaying this grants you permanent bonus movement speed while out of combat. Remember, out of combat. It also scales. And then there is the Ocean Drake. And the Ocean Drake, slaying this, provides regeneration effects that restore 10% of your missing health and mana every 18, 12, and 6 seconds. Once again, it scales. Those are the normal drakes now. Those are which ones will spawn for that first 35 minutes of the game. Elder Dragon, though, is the new big chief honcho dragon. He's essentially Dragon 5. So, after 35 minutes, elemental dragons will no longer spawn. In their place, it will be the Elder Dragon, which will spawn every 10 minutes. For the next 120 seconds, basic attacks and spells will burn for 45 plus 45 per stack of elemental Drake buff, damage over 3 seconds. For the next 120 seconds, increases the strength of elemental dragon buffs by 50%. So Elder Dragon is just as important now of a dragon to get as really all dragons. As important really as Baron, you could say. It doesn't really buff your minions, but it just makes you so much stronger, and it makes all the other dragons you've got in that game, those bonuses, even better. So what they've done is Dragon 5 was really important last season. In the first half of this spring split, or in the spring split of this year, Dragon was still good and impactful, but games were too fast for it to always be utilized. But if you did get to a Drag 5 situation, it was still impactful. It just was happening less often. Now these changes to these drakes are going to make prioritizing them even more important, because as much as you would let an enemy team maybe stack 1 to 4 of the dragons and be like, we'll beat them before they ever get a 5th dragon, who cares? These changes to the first 4 even are really good. So prioritizing dragons just in general is something everyone has to do and think about it. It's going to create way more fights around the dragon pit and just all that. It's just becoming a more important objective again. So dragons are important again. Not that they weren't ever not important. They always were, but now they're more important again with how they can impact the late game and how they scale now. Rift Herald is next, which is cool. This one's also interesting. So Rift Herald now spawns at 6 minutes instead of 4. He no longer respawns. His base health is 8,000, up from 5,000. His base armor is increased by 20. His magic resist is increased by 30. And his base attack damage is increased by 10. His backstab damage is 12% of maximum health instead of 15. Now, the big changes to him are, since he no longer respawns, he grants the Glimpse of the Void. Is the name of it. The duration is not 2 minutes, it is 20 minutes long. You get a 20-minute buff. Glimpse of the Void is not lost on death or obtaining Hand of Baron. So, while no allied champions are near you, you gain 5% damage reduction against champions and continuously build charges of corruption. At 100 charges, your next basic attack discharges all stacks of corruption, dealing 15 to 270 magic damage, depending on your level. And it's halved for ranged champions. What this buff is primarily for is for a split pusher, or for one person to just be stronger than everyone else. But realistically, this is the buff of Darshan, formerly known as Zion Spartan. You're going to want to put it on somebody who can split push, who's not around allied champions. They'll take that 5% less damage reduction, they'll get the corruption charges, and they will become a little bit too much for one person to handle in a split pushing scenario. So it's very important to try to do this and get this to a split pusher. Junglers should no longer be really taking it. Granted, they'll get some of those increases, and they're not around allied champions, but a split pusher, I think, will do a little bit more with this. But if you don't have a split pusher, then yeah, give it to whoever. But Rift Herald, quite different now. Also important to always keep an eye on it and actually keep top warded fairly well. This buff is good, but it's not like outrageous, because I don't think you're going to get you no longer get like the pushing minions, I don't think, and all of that crazy nonsense. So you don't have to worry about that. Just it creates one super buff for a person for 20 minutes, and the super buff really only helps with damage reduction and those charges. So still good though, but split pushers really going to like that. Baron Nashor sees very small changes. The duration of the buff now lasts 30 seconds longer. That's all. Red and blue buffs. Red and blue buffs last 120 seconds for the first time it is cleared, and then 90 seconds for the subsequent clears for the buffs. Damage over time for red buff is a bit different. Don't even really care. Now applies a free tick of damage on application or reapplication, in addition to applying or extending the damage effect over time. The slow is increased actually a bit at later ranks at 25% instead of 20%. The health regeneration, 1% of maximum health per 5 seconds at all times. It's 1, 3, and 9% maximum health per 5 seconds at levels 1, 6, and 11. When not in combat with champions, turrets, or epic monsters. So it's actually got a little bit better healing on that now. Blue buff ability power is going to be, instead of at 2 to 36, it's now just 15% bonus ability power. And the mana regeneration is slightly better, which is good. Jungle timers have also been changed. The jungle timers for all buff camp and epic monster respawns are now automatically granted to both teams for 60 seconds before spawn. Vision of the takedown still grants the full timer. A respawn icon appears at the camp's location on the minimap at 60 seconds before spawn, brightening up at 20 seconds. So some small changes there to jungle timers. I'm going to keep moving things along because we have to. Turret stats. So turret stats. Turret damage increases by 37.5 yada 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 yada. 40% for the first 3 shots. Heating up. Damage no longer partially resets when the target switches targets. Maximum damage 220 over 3 shots instead of 225 over 4 shots. So effectively more damage over less shots. Defensive stats. Health of them being decreased. Base armor is getting added to it, and base magic resist is going to it. So they finally are making turrets have armor and magic resist again instead of it just being health. They were way too easy to shred through early, and the one nice thing about the addition of these means earlier turrets just are beefier because you don't have pen and you don't have as much just base damage to deal with that. Turrets are now subject to armor and magic penetration effects, though. So once again, You usually don't have tons of armor and magic pen early, so they are slightly tankier. Fortification, 35% damage reduction from all sources instead of blocks 30 damage from champion basic attacks. Reinforced armor, no longer grants 200 armor and magic resistance. Physical and magic damage is now reduced by 66.66. The number of the beast. Ability power damage versus turrets. When your ability power is more than double your basic attack damage, your basic attacks against turrets scale with 50% ability power instead of 100% bonus attack damage. Basic attacks scaling off of ability power now deal magic damage to turrets. Turret rewards are changing. The local gold is increased by 80 if you're around when it dies. The global gold is 100 per teammate, which is down 25 per teammate instead of 125. And then the maximum gold per team is overall decreased by 45. Inner turret rewards, local gold is decreased to 175 from 250. The global gold is decreased by 25 per teammate, and the maximum gold is 800, down from 1,000. So these now are worth the same, inners and outers. No longer grants 50 global gold or global experience. They used to do that. So no more global experience on inner turrets being taken down. Inhibitor turret rewards, 50 local gold instead of none. 150 per teammate, which is unchanged, and then once again that means everything is a maximum of 800 gold for everyone. So all turrets are worth 800 gold. Game pacing. Jungle experience. Non-epic jungle monsters now only grant experience to their killers. So that's a good thing. That means you can't accidentally take XP per se, which is a good thing. All jungle items now grant 30 bonus experience on monster kill for each level higher the monster is than you. Hunter's Machete and Hunter's Talisman grant 50 bonus experience on a large monster kill instead of 15, so there's more experience there. Stalker's Blade, Skirmisher's Saber, and Tractor's Knife. Trackers. It's a tractor knife. Give me my tractor, give me my knife. It now grants 50 bonus experience on a large monster kill. Based on the above changes, total jungle experience rewards have been adjusted. Overall, junglers now get slightly more experience per clear, while non-junglers get slightly less. So effectively, you need to have smite and jungle items to get the bonuses that junglers get. And if you're just like a person who is not a jungler and you don't have smite, then you get slightly less experience than you were previously getting, which is fine. It's how it works. So jungle buff, jungle nerf. I mean, it's a buff to the junglers, but it's a nerf to the people who would go and sneak camps. It's less amazing for you to sneak camps. You're really only getting the gold. Gold's still good, but you don't get as much of that experience. Death timers are being slightly reduced between the 20 and 35 minute mark. Home guard is different now, so pay attention, you slimy bastards. Haste duration is now only 7 seconds instead of 8, and the haste amount at 20 minutes is 75% instead of 175%, which means you won't run out of base as fast, but it will now scale up to 150%, which is still below what it used to be, at 40 minutes. So it will slowly scale up percentage-wise as the game duration is increased. So everybody still gets it, it's just not as effective as it used to be. We've made it to champion changes! Yay! We're getting somewhere, people. How long has it been? Over an hour? I actually don't know. I have no idea how long it's been, but it's probably been over an hour. Or we're getting close to it. Azir. So, on his Emperor's Divide, he is less likely to pin an enemy against terrain. Instead, what will happen is it'll push them over the walls behind if the wall's too thick. So it could bop them over it, but if it's too thick of a wall for them to be bopped over, you'll just get flopped back basically closer to Azir, which kind of sucks for Azir in some cases, but you shouldn't try to pin people against super fat walls. It can't just leave them stuck and bouncing. It can't do that. So a change there to Azir. Illaoi is having some changes that should help her out. Tentacles no longer appear in the fog of war. Tentacles stay revealed once you've seen them for the first time. Test of Spirit, though. Vessels can no longer clear the debuff by killing tentacles. So you cannot clear this anymore by just killing tentacles. Tentacles are no longer prevented from spawning if the vessel is recalling. So that can no longer do that. The vessel duration, though, is decreased from 60 seconds to 12. It was way too annoying having it be 60 seconds long, and so that's why you can't clear the debuff anymore. You just are going to have for 12 seconds regardless. Yeah, 60 seconds is just a boring, bad game of I don't care what happens next. Tentacles spawn near vessels once every 5, 4, 3 seconds, depending on the level, instead of every 10 seconds. So they will spawn more often because it is on a shorter duration. And then tentacles spawned by vessel can spawn 700 units apart instead of 1,000. So they can spawn closer together and more often. So this is a buff for her in some light, although the duration is decreased, but there's going to be more closer together, more often, and all that fun business. So maybe this will help her out a little bit. I don't really think she's terrible, but she doesn't really scale great. Maybe this will actually help her late game. But who knows? We'll find out. Kindred's next. Kindred's getting nerfs and buffs. Dance of Arrows. The cooldown, instead of it being 2 seconds at all ranks, it's going to scale down to 2 seconds. It now starts at 4 seconds for that. Wolf's Frenzy, the duration is a half a second longer. Hunter's Vigor gains less charge from movement on its Vigor. And then the Hunting now, Hunter's Vigor charges when Lamb basic attacks. Okay, so now it charges when Lamb basic attacks. And Wolf deals 50% bonus damage to monsters. So Wolf just deals more damage to monsters. But once again, Dance of Arrows being down is your primary max out, and that's going to have an effect. Cooldown when in Wolf's Frenzy. So you won't be able to do that every 2 seconds until you have it ranked out. So you'll have less of that in fights, which is less, and less is things. I don't know what just happened in chat, but okay. Anyways, next is Nidalee. Nidalee has the next changes. It's on her Q, which is her takedown. Execute bonus damage. Instead of it being 1.5% per 1% of the target's missing health, it's now 1, scaling up to 1.75 per 1% of the target's missing health, based on the rank of aspect of Cougar. So, you will do less damage. So, Nidalee gets nerfed again. It scales with alt rank, so you can't do as much early, effectively. And then it'll do actually more later, but less early. So, effectively a nerf until the extreme late game. Rengar, Unseen Predator, jump strikes now proc energized effects such as Static Shiv. Savagery fixed a bug where Savagery consumes Blade or Dead Man's Plate effects without dealing damage. Bola Strike. Bola Strike fires in the direction Rengar casts it, which is what it should do. Cast time, 0.25 seconds instead of it sometimes being 1.25, so they fixed the cast time. And they fixed a bug where reaching max ferocity at the same time as casting Bola Strike, such as during Thrill of the Hunt, could put Empowered Bola on cooldown or immediately consume Rengar's ferocity stack. So another bug fix there. Thrill of the Hunt, they fixed a bug where Rengar sometimes gained 4 ferocity after exiting Thrill of the Hunt, which is also weird and a change. So, if you played Rengar, he's just bugged, and now he's less bugged, unless they've created more bugs while debugging this bugged cat. Who likes bugs? Soraka is next. Soraka is seeing changes on her Q, which is her Star Call. It is now only going to slow for 30% at all ranks instead of it scaling up to 50%. The Rejuvenation movement speed is down 5% from 15 to 10%, and the Rejuvenation no longer refreshes when Speaker's Blessing. So, overall, somewhat significant nerf to Soraka, who's still pretty annoying to play against in lane. The slow amount not ever increasing, pretty big deal for Star Call, and that's a good thing, I guess, because like I said, she's been an annoying champion to deal with for a while. And the Rejuvenation movement speed is down 5%, just slows that all down. Just kind of puts a nerf on Soraka. Although the rest of her stuff's not changing, but these are positive changes to put her back into a more positive spot for the rest of everyone else who isn't Soraka, to say the least. Taric is getting changes. I think most people would agree that in the right hands, he's fairly strong right now. The changes he's seeing, though, is his base mana is going to increase, but his growth stat will be decreased to make up for this. So he'll have more mana early, which is good, but obviously the stat growth is smaller. Bastion, the max cast range is being decreased by 300 range, and the maximum leash range is also being decreased by 300. So a significant range nerf on his W, and then on his Dazzle, same thing. Dazzle length is being decreased by 75, and the width is being taken down by 10. So no real number changes, just kind of quality of life, cast distances, and changes. And so realistically, an impactful nerf, but his numbers aren't being touched. I actually don't really have a problem with his numbers. I do actually like the way that they've gone about this with some range changes, because a few of them seem like they're like, whoa, how'd that hit me? That seems too generous. So now, so yeah, that's what's up with his changes there. Teemo is next. Teemo's getting, well, it doesn't really matter if he gets buffs. Nothing. They're not, I mean, they're buffs, but it's like, who cares buffs? His blinding, well, entering stealth won't interrupt auto attacks in windup. So that's his passive. Blinding Dart costs less mana to cast at later ranks. Kind of giant, who cares? I never had mana issues on Teemo. I don't know why you would. Noxious Traps now cost 75 mana at all ranks, so that is decreased. And then ammo recharge rate for his Noxious Traps is decreased by 4 seconds at rank 1 down to 2 seconds off at rank 3. So 3, 2, 1. Or, yeah, 4, 3, 2. So a little bit shorter, but not like crazy huge. Kind of a giant, who cares? It's just Teemo. And then Zach, they updated his recommended items. He has 5 more base movement speed. And then on Cell Division, Blobs reform after 8, 7, 6, 5, 4 seconds at levels 1, scaling up to 17. Instead of just 8 seconds, it's now going to scale down. So a little bit different on Cell Division, depending on what level you are for the revive timer. So that's kind of good for later in the game when you can melt faster. You'll be able to come back together a little bit faster on your Cell Division. So solid stuff for Zach. We like Zach. He's pretty good. I like Zach. Nothing wrong with him. Splash art updates. We have UFO Corky, Glacial Olaf, Pax Sivir, which they had to redo because the other one sucked. Lil Slugger Trundle, which I clicked on apparently. Junkyard Trundle, and Show Me Your Junk Trundle. I mean, Traditional Trundle, which is the skin I use because I'm a traditional kind of guy. Item changes are next. Removed are boot enchantments. Boot enchantments have been removed from the shop. With Home Guard no longer being tied to the enchantment system, almost all the remaining options are very broad bonuses to movement. As seen earlier this season, bonus movement speed is a dangerous thing to stack, with boot enchantments being a common contributor. So they've been removed. No longer have to worry about boot enchantments. Those have been removed. Also removed is Devourer, which is good because it's stupid and it makes people play the game really wrong and badly. Don't sit in the jungle and just farm because you think if you hit a power spike of one item means you can carry the game. Not always how it works, and kind of a stupid concept in theory. So see you later, Ghost Dog. It's been real. Instead, we now have Blood Razor, which if you think about it, this sounds like a familiar item that League removed a few seasons ago. Oh my god, it's similar to an item they removed a few seasons ago. Oh my god. Blood Razor is going to be replacing it. It is the tier 2 item plus a recurve bow and then gold. It gives you that 40% attack speed, but now basic attacks deal 3% of the target's maximum health as bonus physical damage. Maximum 75 damage versus minions and monsters. So you don't have to stack it up anymore. You don't have to waste your time stacking. You just get 3% of the target's maximum health as bonus physical damage. It's somewhat similar to a Blade of the Ruined King, which effectively replaced the first Blood Razor in the first place. Interesting. How will people stack these to get a lot of magic and physical damage percentage health off of targets? We'll see how that works in the future. So that's the change. So that's what we get instead. Ginsu's Rageblade is seeing some pretty big changes. Upgraded to an end item. Now has Sated Devourer's Phantom Dance hit passive, because that's what they're moving it to, essentially. They updated the item icon. The total cost is going up from 2,800 to 3,600 gold. Blasting Wand Pickaxe Recurve Bow, 875 gold, 35 attack damage, 50 ability power. Deals 15 magic damage on hit. Basic attacks grant 8% attack speed, 3 attack damage, 4 ability power per 5 seconds. This effect stacks, granting Ginsu's Rage at max stacks. The maximum stacks, instead of it being at 8, is now at 6. No longer gives 2 stacks to melee champions. It no longer does AoE damage on hit during Ginsu's Rage. But during Ginsu's Rage, every other basic attack will trigger on hit effects in additional time. So we'll do it in additional time. Every other. So it's different, and it costs more now. Hooray for that. I kind of like that. Black Cleaver, it has been reduced in gold by 400. It has its combined cost come down, and its attack damage is down by 5 attack damage. Spectral's Cowl now costs 100 more gold. It gives you 50 more health, but it takes away 5 magic resist. Banshee's Veil now costs significantly less gold, as it's only 2450 instead of 2900. It now only gives you 300 health instead of 500 health. Spectral's Cowl, Negatron Cloak, 530 gold. Spirit Visage, 2800 gold, which remains unchanged. Combined cost is down. Magic resist is being decreased from 70 to 55, and the health regen is increased to 200%, up from 150, and the passive healing is now up to 25%. So less magic resist on the Spirit Visage with more health regeneration and passive healing increased. Guardian Angel now costs less gold. Combined cost is down, and the magic resist is decreased from 60 to 45. Get ripped. Get ripped, magic resist. That's what's up. Quicksilver Sash and Mercurial Scimitar now only remove crowd control debuffs. The actives on Quicksilver Sash and Mercurial Scimitar now only remove crowd control debuffs. The QSS and Mercurial Scimitar active have 2 issues: cleansing crowd control, such as like an Amumu ult, and purging combat debuffs, such as Zed's ult. These cases differ in that crowd control is set up, while combat debuffs are the payoff to such setup. When you cleanse crowd control, the enemy needs to lock you down again to aggress on you, but that tends to be a pretty reasonable ask. By contrast, cleansing a combat debuff wipes the applicator's primary means of fighting you, so those champions are pressured to snowball before their effects become meaningless, while their opponents are forced into buying QSS, even if it's incredibly inefficient to do so. This leads to destructive effects on game balance, which were left unanswered for far too long, with the understanding that there may be outliers we need to address with unstacking combat debuff champions from the Quicksilver Callers. So effectively what they're saying is Trundle or Fiora were super annoying in the top lane, and to deal with their stupidness, you would just buy a QSS, which made no sense for your champion to buy, but you would just cleanse the ultimates off of them because of reasons. Exactly what they're saying. It just doesn't really make any sense anymore. Like, it didn't make any sense to buy it because, well, okay, it made no sense to buy it, but you knew why you wanted to buy it. But, like, you didn't want to build it anything. You just buy a QSS and were like, all right, now I can get rid of it. But then, yes, that champion became irrelevant to use that ability on that person, because it's like, well, great. What's the point of a Trundle ultimate or a Fiora ultimate or a Zed ultimate if you can't, like, I can't do anything with this now. So that's been removed. So it only removes crowd control debuffs, not just ult debuffs that deal damage or are passively ridiculous. So hooray for Zed, like some of you are saying. And Trundle and Fiora, champions who essentially could get their ultimates just turned off, because their ultimates never necessarily did anything until they did more with it. So, Hex Drinker, Maw of Malmortius, and Sterk's Gauge. Sterk's Shield is now classified as a lifeline effect, along with the shields from Hextech Drinker and Maw of Malmortius. When a lifeline effect triggers, all lifeline items are put on the cooldown of the triggered item. Only the triggered effect's shield is granted. Sterk's Fury and Maw's Life Grip are now both granted on either lifeline trigger. Bami's Cinder now has 20 less health. Sunfire Cape's cost is up by 200 gold, and its combined cost reflects that with the 200 gold increase. The Cinder Hulk enchantment, now 15 plus 0.6 per level, is now 7 plus 2 per level, so it kind of makes up for it when it comes to the damage. Vision Wards now have 4 health instead of 5. Now regenerates 1 health every 3 seconds after 5 seconds out of combat. So Vision Wards can regenerate health if they get attacked once or twice and then you scare somebody off of it. They can regen some of their health back up, but they have less base health. So remember that. Farsight Alteration, the cooldown is being increased, so it takes longer for people to use them because your whole team could have them and use them without ever going out to check something. They could just do it on rotation. We saw this a little too often in the LCS where they'd never have to take a risk to go out to check something. They could have enough Farsights that they could just ping them when they needed to on the thing that they needed to and stop people from doing Baron without actually leaving their base. So that is going to have a longer cooldown now. Righteous Glory. 15% of the damage taken from champions is gained as mana. Spending mana restores 25% of the mana spent as health up to 25 per cast because this, as we know, has a catalyst in it. And the changes to catalyst obviously changed the Righteous Glory. Active no longer speeds up allies. The active movement speed is increased by 15%. The active haste duration is up 1 second from 3 to 4. The active slow is down 5%, which is probably not that big of a deal. The active slow duration is 2 seconds instead of 1 second, so that's actually better overall. So Righteous Glory, kind of actually better besides not speeding up your allies. Warmog's Armor, its cost remains the same. Its health is down by 50, but that's going to be now giving 10% cooldown reduction. You know what? You can unchange that cost and change the build path a little bit. And if you take 50 health off of it and give me 10% cooldown reduction, I'm going to be happy about that. Although I don't always find great times to build Warmogs. It's not... I don't know. There's so many other items you'd probably want in front of it nowadays, depending on the champion. Obviously, champions like Mundo would love to have a Warmogs. Even a Garen with his passive becomes ridiculous with a Warmogs, but... yeah, hard to find good times to buy Warmogs. Just the world we live in. Relic Shield is next. Relic Shield's charge cooldown is 40 seconds instead of 60, and healing per charge is going to be 20 instead of 40. Targon's Brace, 40 health on the healing charge instead of 50, so it's down 10. Spellthief's Edgeline, the mana regeneration is being decreased to 75 from 100%, and same thing with the Frost Queen's Claim, once again pushing it down into the bot lane instead of the mid lane with changes to that. Arcane Sweeper, it's a creepy eyeball. Instead of it becoming the Hextech Sweeper, it's now the Arcane Sweeper. Alright, that's it. Grievous Wounds reduces self-healing by 40%. Now it's all healing received by 40%. So no more self-healing, just all healing. So if Raka's healing somebody with Grievous Wounds, it's all healing. So this is another nerf to really all healers because of Grievous Wounds instead of self-healing. So Grievous Wounds, more impactful, you could say now. I know some people don't really know much about... Oh yeah, you can get Volibear Warmogs, I guess. I don't play a lot of Volibear, so he kind of got skipped when that comes up. But all healing received, so a nerf to all healers per se, and it makes Grievous Wounds a more impactful stat that I think a lot of people don't know when to buy / ignore. It can be very impactful depending on who you're up against. If you're up against Rakas or Mundos or Swains or anybody who also likes to heal, it's just really good for that. So skin clarity updates, those are happening. You can read over these. Underworld Twisted Fate, you know, we got lots of stuff. That was one of the recent ones. They're revisiting 8 skins that were hard to read for various reasons, so if you have any of these skins, sucks to be you. I'm just kidding. Just clarity, particle, and mod brighten things up so it's easier to read, so it's not as stupid to play against. Bug fixes. Plethora of bug fixes that were not important enough to get their own actual champion changes. Ward placement VO line no longer plays globally for allies on some champions and skins. Snow Day, Singe, Recall, Audio is no longer global. Just a lot of weird, stupid stuff. Battle Cast Alpha Skarner no longer occasionally plays base Skarner's VO. So read through these bug fixes if you love the bug fixes. Upcoming skins for patch. These will be released during patch 6.9. We have, hold on. Iron Inquisitor Kale in the middle. Cursed Revenant Nocturne over here. And then Black Scourge Singed. So there's Nocturnes. There's Kales. I kind of like her. She looks Assassin's Creed Brotherhoody or whichever one. And then we have Singed, who looks also like that, and creepy. These skins, I really think these look neat. I don't know what they look like in game. I might go look at those too. But these look pretty sweet, in my opinion. And this splash is just different in general, but I does like these. I does like these. They're neato. And that's what the thumbnail is, in case anybody was really, really confused on what the thumbnail was that they were looking at. They're like, what the hell is this stuff? So yeah, they were the thumbnail. So Nocturne, Kale, and Singed. Kind of interesting seeing Singed get a skin. It's been a while. Also, it's Singed. All right, I think I covered that. That's good. Oh, hello. Okay, there we go. We're back. But that's But that's the patch notes. Realistically, I made time. I did work. I talked fast. I made it vague. It was great. I tried to talk about things. I knew it was going to take a while to cover, and even me trying to move it along at a good rate, still at about an hour and a half. If you have any questions about anything, obviously leave a comment down below. Pretty big changes. Let me know what you like, what you don't like. If you're excited for a certain Mage update, I'll obviously start playing them a bit more, try to start making some new videos for them. I myself will also be jumping over to the PBE to play the new champion, and I will do like a little video on them. Look for that probably sometime tomorrow, most likely. Be sure to check that out. I'm going to try to do a little bit more PBE stuff. I think you guys would like to see that. I'm not going to actually do, like, I don't know. It depends on what you want to see on the PBE. I mean, if you want me to look at skins, I'll look at skins too. But I'm not going to go over every stat ever on the PBE. But if that's stuff that you guys want to see, that'd be cool. Obviously, you should also check out my chat room on the Curse server. It's really cool. We've had a few people join it actually while we've been doing this, which is cool. I post my videos in there. There are chat rooms for all types of games. If you're looking for groups to play with League with people, it's a good place to reach other Honey Badger fans or just anybody. They don't have to be fans of me, honestly. I don't really care. Just it's a place for people to hang out. There's League discussion, Hearthstone discussion, there's Overwatch discussion, general gaming, looking for group, and I'm gonna set up like I don't want to say tech support, but essentially stuff like that in there too. There's some voice chats. It's really cool. We all hang out in there. You also can know when I'm streaming in there too, and I can do giveaways in there and all types of other fun stuff. So that's really good. Like I said, let me know what you guys think in the things below, down below, all the stuff. The patch will drop tomorrow morning. If you could leave me a like on this video, that would be awesome. It's helpful. Even if you want to dislike it, that's helpful. If you really hated it, although if you really hated it and you watched it this long, something's wrong with you. Or you just enjoy watching something you hate. I don't know, man. I don't make the rules. I'm really actually interested in the dragon changes personally. I think those could be pretty neat. Split push comps could be interesting. Mage changes just in general, those look fun. And relearning how items cost money and things. And then how my Cassiopeia jungle will work once I hop back onto A to Z jungle, and Cassiopeia is my next one. Those should all be very interesting. But like I said, that is the patch. Those are the patch notes. I'm clicking on buttons, and those are the things. #truth. But yes, I want to thank all of you for watching. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Play some League. Have some fun. I haven't done the giveaway yet. I got to get that set up. So don't worry about that. You'll all be notified. And all that fun stuff. But yes, y'all have a fantastic day, night, evening. Like the video. And I'll see all of you guys later. All right? Okay. Bye-bye.